This is Radio Hereford FC, the home of the Bulls.
Hello and welcome back to the latest edition of the Bullscast with me, George Holloway. This week we're taking a look back at Hereford's 1-1 draw at Chester and the late equaliser that saw the Bulls miss out on the opportunity to make it back-to-back wins in all competitions. Also on the pod, we'll discuss the striking options Paul Caddis has at his disposal, the re-signing of Jaiden White from Sutton United, and the home fixture against Marine this Saturday. To do all of that, I'm joined by Keith Hall. Keith, thanks for joining me. Before we get into the game, let's start with the sad news of former Hereford United manager John Newman, who passed away recently, aged 91. Born in Hereford, he managed the Bulls between 83 and 87 and improved the fortunes of the club during his time in charge.
Yeah, he most certainly did. I mean, the club were on quite a low ebb when he arrived at Edgar Street, but he took the attitude, look, we've got to be positive right from the word go, and more or less with the same squad of players, he hauled them up almost into, well, certainly into promotion contention, and we had those FA Cup epic matches, including our Arsenal game. It was a really good time, and he was very, very much a professional, but very approachable, very friendly man, and he got players involved in what he was trying to do and working on that as best they could within the framework of the club at the time, and it worked really well. I think people liked the style of football. Some would have called it a little bit counter-attacking play, but when you've got people like the pace of Chris Price working up from that full-back position, racing into the box, getting penalty after penalty, Jimmy Harvey orchestrating things in midfield. I think the injury to John Delph was probably why Hereford didn't go up under John Newman. The injury set Hereford back. But in terms of being approachable and always looking to try and seek an advantage, I thought he was a very good manager with a great track record, very experienced player, and he used that to good effect as manager of Hereford. Brought Alan Ashman in, I remember as well, another very experienced Football League manager and coach. And between the two of them, I thought they dovetailed really well.
Absolutely. And of course, our thoughts go to his friends and family at this time. One other piece of news, just to mention quickly, Keith, is Michael Parker's loan spell ending. He's been recalled by West Brom. Overall, a really positive time for him, getting experience in non-league.
Yeah, I think it's suited both parties for a while. Obviously, I think West Brom are looking at getting him into more in terms of first team squad up at the Hawthorns, and may well get another loan now to a Football League club just to enhance Parker's career a little bit more in the next few weeks and months. But I don't think it'll be too long before you see the name Parker in the West Brom first team setup.
So let's dive into Hereford's 1-1 draw at Chester. It looked for all the world like they were going to inflict just a second home league defeat of the season on the Seals until Connor Woods popped up deep into added time, Keith.
Yeah, it was a bit of a dagger in the back yet again, right at the end of a match. But having said that, Hereford were ahead at the time, and we didn't lose as we did at Fylde, and that was the really negative end to a match. It felt like a defeat almost up at Chester because of the nature of the late goal, but you have to look at the game as a whole over the 98 minutes. I think probably Chester did deserve a draw, albeit Hereford played very well in the second half.
Yeah, Chester started the game very well, and the Bulls had to withstand a lot of pressure in the opening 20 minutes.
Yeah, even conceded a goal inside 5 minutes, which was thankfully ruled out for offside. I think Hereford played very, very defensively in the first 45, and it wasn't really until the second half that they became a little bit more expansive. And perhaps in that first half they showed Chester a bit too much respect. But once they got on the front foot in the second period, it was transformed the game to a really competitive one. One in which Hereford could have won, and they had quite a number of chances in the game.
Just before half-time, Harley Hamilton went down inside the penalty area, but no penalty was given. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, George Murray-Jones, on loan from Nottingham Forest, uncharacteristically seemed to be making some mistakes. A couple of long shots which he misheld and bounced out, and that was another one of those which bounced out towards Hamilton on the right-hand side, just outside the post, as it were. And it looked to all of us that he was brought down by the goalkeeper, Hamilton. The way that the ball deflected, it was either a goal kick or a penalty, not a corner. I agree with Paul Caddis in that respect. I think the referee bottled it to a degree. It should have perhaps given Hereford a spot kick.
Hamilton played up top alongside Callum McFarlane on Tuesday night. How do you think they fared together, Keith?
Yeah, I think it was more 4-4-1-1, so Hamilton had that free sort of number 10 role behind McFarlane up front, but McFarlane was largely ineffective, but we both thought, that was Toby Brick, the club's media officer, and myself, gave Hamilton the Man of the Match award because I thought he was very, very good in midfield, making driving runs into the Chester half on several occasions, and he's got that physique which you don't necessarily see from too many youngsters to hold off National League North players. So he was retaining possession of the ball, driving forward and causing Chester a few problems at the back. And I think it was probably because he literally ran out of steam after 75 minutes or so before he was taken off. But a very, very effective National League North debut, I thought.
Yeah, great physicality as well. I don't think you really appreciate how big of a player he is until you see him live in person. The opening goal didn't come until the 59th minute, Keith, and it was an unlikely goal scorer from a corner that got it for the Bulls.
Yeah, it was Skinner at the far post, but it was a really good cross coming in from Sam Osborne down the left-hand side. I think Hamilton was involved in the build-up to it, but certainly the ball out onto the left flank for Osborne to put in really accurate cross to the far post. And if you look at the replays back of the highlights of the game, you'll see the movement from Skinner darting in before the defender could get there to make sure he got a header on there first, and then directed it nicely into the opposite corner of the net, and it dropped in at the far post. So it was a really good goal, well worked, and at that stage Hereford deserved it and went on to create further chances. As I say, could easily have won the game with their second half performance.
Yeah, as you say, it was Hereford's turn to apply the pressure, and they had chances, Keith, to grab the second and get a real stranglehold on the game.
Yeah, Andy Williams with a header at the near post, cannoned off the underside of the crossbar, came down, thoughts, well, was it over the line, but it clearly wasn't. So that was the right decision, but oh so close for Hereford. And Kyle Howkins on a couple of occasions, he hit the post or crossbar as well in one particular attack, and another couple of attempts from Hereford with the ball in the box. It was Howkins and Preston who just couldn't swivel quickly enough to get their shots in on target from about 8-10 yards out. So a much better performance in the second 45. It's great to see Skinner allowed to come forward into attacking positions more in the second period, perhaps a little bit too defensive in the first, and that sort of produced dividends in that second 45 minutes with that opening goal.
Yeah, much improved performance in the second half. And just when you thought Hereford were going to pick up their first league win since the 4th of October, Chester made them pay for those missed opportunities in the 6th minute of added time when Woods found the bottom corner. Was it preventable, Keith?
It was gutting. Preventable, well, yes. 8 minutes of added time, perhaps. If they'd been a little bit quicker, not delaying tactics quite so much, there wouldn't have been so much time added on. Given that, though, that there were lots and lots of substitutions in the second half, you're supposed to give 30 seconds added on for each one of those. But yeah, there was a little bit of gamesmanship from Hereford, and that probably resulted in the goal, gave the time to Chester to get back. We always felt in the commentary box that the longer the game went on and on and on, that there'd be another goal in the game, whether it's going to be Hereford or whether it was going to be Chester. Some supporters say, well, you should have completely shut up shop, had 10 players behind the ball, you've got a 1-0 win, just hunker in there and give the opposition no chance of getting a shot in on target. But that's really difficult necessarily to do. Caddis's attitude has always been, we're going to win the game, and there were opportunities for Hereford in the last 10 minutes to go on and win it. So it would have been a fully deserved 3 points if they have done that and won the game 2-0 rather than drawing one each.
You addressed it partly in your answer just there, Keith, and maybe it is nitpicking a little bit, but 8 additional minutes, was that a fair amount of time to add on there from the referee and the fourth official?
I think overall, if you look back at the season generally, there has been a lot more stoppage time, not just involving Hereford matches, but up and down the country. And it just seems to be part and parcel of the game these days. Not forgetting there are all these tactical, what I call tactical stoppages during the game. Theo Richardson did it probably 3 times as a goalkeeper going down, getting treatment for an injury. Whether some of those are absolutely necessary, I don't know. But those extra minutes are added on at the end.
Overall, looking at the game, is it a fair result, 1-1?
I think if you went into the game saying it's going to be 1-1, given Hereford's recent history, you'd be saying, yeah, that's a very good result. And if you put this result into context, Chester have only lost one home National League North game, and that was to Bedford 2-1 early in the season. They do draw a lot, and I think that's why some Chester supporters are really frustrated with Callum McIntyre, the manager. I was actually surprised at the amount of verbals that they were given to the Chester manager. But obviously they're looking for victories like Hereford fans are, and that they're upset that Chester haven't kicked on, having got into the playoff final last season against Scunthorpe and then losing out. So they feel Chester have gone backwards to be 14th in the table before kick-off. Hereford likewise, supporters are just totally bemused by the fact that Hereford are in the bottom 4.
Yeah, that sort of leads me on to one of my next questions, Keith, which is it wasn't really the Chester that we saw of last season, was it?
It wasn't. It was noticeable that when Declan Weeks came on with only about 5 minutes to go, there were sort of sarcastic cheers from some of the Seals contingent as if to say, well, why doesn't he start? There must be something between what McIntyre wants to see and what Declan Weeks is producing at the moment. Having said all of that, Jack Bainbridge, the former Southport midfield player, was playing in that sort of Declan Weeks sort of role, arriving late towards the penalty area. Hereford didn't pick him up too often, and as a result Bainbridge was orchestrating things from midfield in and around the box. So perhaps it's something to say to Declan Weeks, well, you've got to improve your game. But he left it very late, McIntyre, before bringing Weeks on, and as we've seen in the past against Hereford, both for Kidderminster and Chester, Weeks has got a tremendous shot available to him, and in a way it was good that perhaps he didn't play against the Bulls last night.
And it's something Hereford obviously haven't had to worry about over the last few years, Keith, but does it show when teams get into the playoffs, and particularly the playoff final, and miss out due to those fine margins, it's difficult to go again in the following season?
It is, but then other clubs have built on the squad that they have, and they've added to it, strengthened it. You know, I always look at Brackley in that regard, a part-time setup. Yes, they're well-funded, but they're very consistent. They keep and retain a fairly settled squad, moving things around a little bit, juggling things, trying to keep the same system and same style. And eventually they've gone up, as we saw at the end of last season. So I think really each club has got to look at their own setup and say, how can we improve? And I don't think Chester or Hereford could say in any shape or form that they've hit the expectation levels of the respective sets of fans that just haven't made the progress.
So 5-1 win at Sudbury in the FA Trophy last weekend, Keith. Following that up with, of course, a 1-1 draw away at Chester. How do you think privately Paul Caddis will reflect on the last 5 days or so?
Well, I'm sure he'll say that the players are all working for him. They were tremendous in that first half. I looked at it and I thought Hereford were taking the game too defensively minded, but they did come out a little bit more expansively after the restart. But in the first half, you could see how much effort the players were putting in to get blocks in, putting their bodies on the line, last-minute challenges to block the shots and make sure Chester didn't get ahead. Yet Chester had opportunities to have done so, 2 or 3 perhaps on another day, but Hereford were resolute and they stuck in there, and that's the situation that the Bulls are in. They just have to start getting points and get climbing up the table somehow. So team spirit does come into it, and if they have got a united front, which they seem to have, they will work for each other. As long as they continue to that, results will turn around.
11 other games took place in the National League North on Tuesday night, starting with Telford, who beat Oxford City by 4-0. It finished Chorley 0, Spennymoor 0, Darlington 3, Curzon Ashton 3, Fylde 5, Macclesfield 1. Kings Lynn beat Buxton by 3-2. It finished Marine 2, Kidderminster 0. Of course, Marine are Hereford's next opponents. Merthyr 4, Leamington 1, who sit bottom of the league. Peterborough Sports 3, Bedford 1. Scarborough 0, Alfreton 0. Southport 2, Radcliffe 0. And Worksop 0, South Shields 3. It means that after 19 games, South Shields stay top with 43 points. Fylde are 2 points behind them on 41. Merthyr sit third with 37, while Scarborough are back in fourth with 30, but have 2 games in hand on the 3 teams above them. At the other end of the table, Leamington occupy 24th place with 13 points. Oxford City, Hereford and Alfreton make up the rest of the relegation zone, but Hereford do have a couple of games in hand on the teams above them. Hereford host a Marine side this Saturday that have made a good start to the season. They sit 5th and have won 4 of their last 5 games in all competitions. A different kind of challenge to the one that Chester posed.
Yeah, 6-match unbeaten run as well in all competitions. Nobody's beaten them since Fylde, actually, back on the 1st of November. So a really good run for Marine to get up into 5th place in those playoff positions with a 2-0 win over Kidderminster this week. They ended up comfortably safe last season. So they're a club that has improved. They have made progress. They get reasonable attendances now in National League North terms, just over 1,000 up on the north west coast. And I think Bobby Grant's done a good job since he took over in May, getting players in that have got a little bit more experience, perhaps, and it is bearing fruit for him.
Yeah, they've done a really good job, Marine, haven't they, since coming up at establishing themselves in the National League North, which is, as we know, no mean feat at all. Where do the main threats for Marine come from then, Keith?
Well, I would look at Charlie Jolly. He's an online striker from Fylde. He's still only 24, but has got Football League experience with Wigan Athletic and Tranmere. He's probably the one to look at alongside George Newell, who's always sort of a figurehead up front. You know, he'll take a little bit of stopping those two. The Bulls will have to watch counter-attacks, especially down the flanks. Finlay Sinclair-Smith will be probably pivotal to Marine on the counter. Adam Ansom at the back, I remember him at Southport and Alfreton before that. Bit of an uncompromising centre-back, so it depends who leads the line for Hereford. And it seems unfortunate that Romain Campbell's out with a workplace injury, so they won't be that target man for Hereford, because best will in the world, I don't think Callum McFarlane can realistically fulfil that role. He's just not that style of player. And then it's obviously asking a lot of Andy Williams to run like a 25-year-old up front as a single striker. So it'll be interesting to see tactically how Paul Caddis goes about facing the challenge of Marine at the weekend.
And how do you see the game panning out? What can fans expect to see on Saturday at Edgar Street?
Well, what they want is a home victory. 4 games now since they beat Worksop on the 20th of September. Only 1 clean sheet all season. That was against Alfreton way back in August at Edgar Street. That's something that they need to address. That's what supporters want to see. It's not necessarily just goals at the other end, but just don't make these innocuous errors of judgment. Seemingly on too many occasions this season, they've let certainly early goals in, and they didn't do that at Chester, which is an improvement. 2, if not 3 games in hand, clubs around them. But unless you start getting these goals, have only scored once for the majority of the season, so they need to start doubling up and get home victories. And if they do, obviously I think the crowds can then be maintained. But if they're not getting results, I'm not sure the attendances will hold up.
Will the re-signing of Jaiden White help to address the lack of goals?
Yeah, I think it will, in terms of a spark of flair down the left-hand side especially. Whether he gets enough minutes to get fully fit, because he hasn't played too much for Sutton since going there. I think it's 10 times, but most of those have been as a substitute, just a 1 start. And I don't think he's featured since September. So it'll be cagey for him, minutes by minute, probably 10-15 minutes here and there, until he's launched straight back into the starting lineup. But, you know, he's a good foil, I think, for Sam Osborne. I wouldn't take an Osborne off last night. because you always got that goal threat from Osborne cutting in from the left-hand side. And likewise, if you put maybe Jaiden White on the right flank, he'll cut onto his left foot. So it's the modern way. Some people don't like it. They much prefer a winger, an old-fashioned winger, a bit like Dudley Tyler, going down the right flank, outpacing a defender, getting to the byline and getting the crosses in. That's not necessarily the modern way. If you're left-footed, sometimes you play on the right and vice versa. And as I say, they're getting goals. If you look at that goal from Sam Osborne against Sudbury, cutting in from the left, and Jaiden White did that quite a number of occasions at the back end of last season. But I think we'll have to be patient with Jaiden. Hopefully it comes to fruition over the festive period especially.
And with a couple of improved performances and results, Keith, is there a little bit more positivity around Edgar Street now?
Well, you have to think that will be the case. Scoring goals, yep, still a problem. Only Leamington and Alfreton have scored fewer, and that's why Hereford are at the bottom of the table, coupled with conceding too many. But if they can just address that and get that team spirit going, as we saw against Chester, I think they will get enough points to clamber up there. But it's not going to be the playoff campaign, certainly not at the moment, unless there's a real change in fortunes in the new year. Hereford have just got to be prepared to grind out results from time to time and do enough to start winning matches, because that's what it's all about. Doesn't matter where the results come from, who they're against. At this stage, they just got to pick up victories along the way.
"12 fixtures are due to take place in the National League North this Saturday, starting at struggling Alfreton, who host Southport. It's Bedford versus Darlington and Buxton versus Merthyr. Fyle travel to Curzon Ashton, while 10th place Kidderminster host 11th place Chorley. Elsewhere, bottom side Leamington welcome Works up to the new Windmill Ground, while Macclesfield hosts Scarborough. It's Oxford City versus Kings Lynn and Radcliffe versus Telford. South Shields are at home to Peterborough Sports, while Chester travel to Spennymoor. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bullscast. Don't forget to give us a review and follow if you enjoyed it, and we'll be back next week to review all of the latest action from Hereford FC. Until then, it's bye for now.
This is Radio Hereford FC, the home of the Bulls.